joining us right now, Frank Wolf, representative in Virginia, Republican, who has been a passionate defender of ethnic minorities and religious minorities in Iraq. Thank you for joining us, Congressman.
Sure, good to be with you.
Is this enough?
No, it's not. It's a beginning, but you have to aid the Kurds. You have to aid the Kurdish government. The Kurdish government is our friend out in the region, and the Obama administration has prohibited them from even selling their oil. There's a ship off the coast of Texas that is loaded with Kurdish oil, and our government will not allow them to sell.
Why is that?
Wait, yeah. Why? What do you mean won't allow them to?
They say the oil belongs to the central government. The Kurds are the only ones that are defending the Christians. The Kurds are really fighting ISIS. The Kurds do not have the same sophisticated weapons that ISIS has. ISIS has the weapons, American-made weapons, that they've taken when the Iraqi military has left. They have missiles. They have Humvees. We have even heard they have Black Hawk helicopters. I'm not sure they can fly them, but they may. So they have very sophisticated weapons, and the Kurds do not. The president should thank the Kurds for defending the Christians and others and the Yazidis. They should offer assistance with regard to selling oil so they can purchase weapons. They should put some resources on the ground with groups like Catholic Relief and Save the Children and World Vision. Because the people without water, they're without food, they're without supplies. This really isn't enough. Secondly, there's something that I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking. There are well over 100 Americans with American passports who are fighting with ISIS, who are part of ISIS in Syria and also Iraq. They fly to Turkey. They get off the airplane. They go south with a telephone number. They go into either Syria, and they join them up. If you saw the story the other day in I think the New York Times, that one fellow from Florida went over there, fought, came back, went back, and was a suicide bomber. And so these people have the ability to come back to the United States. There are several thousand of them, who are from Europe. And they have the ability to fly in the United States or fly back. So this is not something you just kind of contain for this one moment. This is a threat to the homeland in addition to the threat was taking place.
Should the U.S. do more? You know, the president's talking about targeted strikes. Aside from helping the Kurds in this effort, should the U.S. do more than just the targeted strikes to try to defeat ISIS?
A targeted strike is almost a word. It doesn't really mean anything. I think we should be aiding the Kurds. The Peshmerga has been fighting valiantly, but now they literally are being forced back because they do not have the weapons. We should be allowing the Kurds to sell the oil. We should be working with some of the Sunni tribes there. But overall, you have to make sure that the Kurds are able to defend themselves and just defend the Christians that are on the ground at the time. If you're not even going to let them sell their own oil, if you're not going to let them to defend their own people, I mean, what do you expect to happen? But I think this ISIS now, and if you've looked at some of the videos, what they're doing is, if you are a Christian, you are either going to have to die, leave, or convert. And the world has to face this.
Yeah.
They took over a town the other day in Lebanon. They are now at the Jordanian border. They're taking over borders there.
And that's the stark reality. They are standing over these in their minds non-believers and saying convert or die. Representative Frank Wolf is our guest, and you talk about giving more aid to the Kurds and allowing the Kurds to do more to help themselves. I want to ask you one step further. Bill Kristol, Weekly Standard founder and editor, and a passionate pundit with regard to these things. Yesterday, he said that there would be bipartisan support in Congress if the president also authorized a few thousand troops to help in Kurdistan. You're there in Congress. Do you agree? Would there be bipartisan support?
I don't think so. I don't think we need troops on the ground now. I do not think so. First of all, you do first things first. Give the Kurds the ability to defend themselves. Give the Kurds the resources. Allow them to sell their oil so they can have the resources. give money to foreign aid money to Catholic relief groups that we trust, because some of the times we put money out there, we don't even know where it's going. Catholic Relief is on the ground. World Vision is on the ground. I think UNICEF and Save the Children are on the ground. Give them some of the resources. But begin to allow the Kurds to arm themselves. Secondly, I have a bill in Congress we're trying to pass it. I hope we do by the end. It makes this a crime for any American to go to Syria and join up with these people. And when they come back, we prosecute them and put them in jail for a long while.
That's a no-brainer.
What, Congressman? What stops the America from helping the Kurds? Why do you think they haven't been doing that?
The Obama administration's story has been that they want to aid the central Iraqi government. The government really doesn't exist to the degree it did. Maliki has not been a very effective person, let's just put it.
Right, that's an understatement, sure.
That's an understatement. And so you're seeing the unraveling. I don't know that ISIS at this moment has the ability to take Baghdad because of the Shia fighters that are there, but the government in itself doesn't really exist. If you saw the passionate comments that was made by the woman on the floor of their Parliament yesterday with regard to these Yazidis.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't a Yazidi, and she was saying, please, will the world help us?
Yeah.
Secondly, I think the Western community has to face the reality. We are seeing the end of Christianity in Iraq. And keep in mind, more biblical activity took place in Iraq than any other country of the world other than Israel. Abraham is from Iraq. Ezekiel was buried in Iraq. Daniel was buried in Iraq. Jonah, Nineveh. I said last week, blew up Jonah's tomb.
Right. And we're told...
So the world, the world has to say, we are literally seeing the end of Christianity. Paul could no longer travel. Paul from the Bible could not travel to Damascus because the road is impassable. I mean, we see what's taking place with regard to Christians Coptic Christians in Egypt, the Christian community in Syria. So we are literally going to see where Christianity began, which I think is very important. Where Christianity began will no longer have any Christians. And keep in mind, the Assyrian Chaldean Catholic Christian community speaks Aramaic. They speak the same language as Jesus. And can the world just sit by and allow this community to be wiped off the face of the earth?
Representative Frank Wolf, I know that you have a tight schedule this morning. I need to go to traffic, but I would love to ask you one more question if you can hold on with. Oh, thank goodness. All right. We're going to continue with Representative Frank Wolf. It is 8:15 WMAL Traffic and Weather. We're continuing with Congressman Frank Wolf, long-serving congressman out of Virginia, and you just made such a passionate description of what is going on right now in Iraq and the biblical history that is there. In fact, I read that many people believe that this mountain where this stand is happening right now, where we're bringing humanitarian help, many people believe that this was the final resting place of Noah's Ark, that this is where the Ark actually ended up. So the biblical history and the biblical significance is very important. But isn't it true, sir, that if ISIS isn't actually completely neutralized, this is just a Band-Aid today? I mean, ultimately, the final fight here, the final showdown is going to be with ISIS, and it's either going to be them or civilization.
That's true, because they are not going to stop. They're willing to give their life. They're committed. And again, if you look at some of the videos, you either convert or you die. They slit your throat. They behead people. And they're coming.
Yeah.
And they're coming now with about 115 or more Americans, many Brits, many from France, many from the Scandinavian countries, and they're just committed and they're driven. So the world you just can't look away. You may want to look away. People may want to look away. Secondly, we got to understand this is genocide. It meets the definition. There was a guy, Lumpkin, if you remember, he did the definition for the UN, 1948, of genocide. This meets the test of genocide. And lastly, it is a crime against humanity. And the UN needs to be talking about this. But yet, they are not going to stop.
Yeah, the UN wants to talk about Israel.
What's your reaction to the president's speech last night, and do you think he will end up making targeted strikes?
Well, I've been disappointed in the president. He gave that speech at the Holocaust Museum in April 2012, where he said never again, and then he has the Atrocity Prevention Board. They're not doing anything. They're not even meeting. They're just so. I think the administration really has failed on this, and the silence of the administration to speak out on this, I mean, has been part of the problem. But the rest of the West has to speak out. Now, Pope Francis has spoken out. The Archbishop of Canterbury has spoken out. Russell Moore from the Southern Baptist Alliance has spoken out. But I think more religious leaders in the West are going to have to speak out, because we're seeing genocide. We're seeing the end of Christianity as we know it. And we're seeing a terrorist group that is armed. These are not Al-Qaeda. It's armed with a Kalashnikov. These are armed with missiles, with tanks, with armored personnel carriers, with sophisticated weapons, mostly American-made.
Our weapons, yeah.
They took away from the Iraqi military.
Representative Frank Wolf, one last question. Unfortunately, in many people's minds, it's may not be unfortunate in your mind, but for us, that we're in the final few months of your career as a congressman, and there have been so many issues like this one that you have been passionate about. You were also very passionate about investigating Benghazi, and we now do have a select committee headed by your colleague Trey Gowdy. I wonder, is there anything else that you would love to see done in your final few months here as a congressman representing Virginia?
Oh boy, our country's in trouble. I think America. I think we're facing. I think unless there's some fairly dramatic things done, America is facing decline.
Wow, what kind of dramatic things do you think need to happen?
Well, I don't think we have enough time to really.
A couple big ones, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think we could have a revival in the country, which would do a long way to kind of changing a lot of things. Everyone realizes where we're going. We're seeing America. When I used to go abroad, during the 80s and the 90s, boy, America was leading. Now America. I mean, they say, what's the expression? Leading from behind. Leading from behind is basically following. And our friends no longer trust us, and our enemies no longer respect us. And we're seeing the world, whether it be in North Africa, whether it's Boko Haram, everyone's forgetting Libya. Libya is now gone. Actually, do you know what everyone's forgetting?
What's that?
The aircraft. The plane that was shot down into Ukraine.
MH17. It's like no one talks about it anymore.
No one even talks about it. And the Russian soldiers are on the Ukrainian border.
Yeah.
They took Crimea. The Obama administration said, okay, they took Crimea, let's walk up. So from the Ukraine, from Crimea, from Nigeria to Libya to Gaza to Iraq, and look what's taking place in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference between Afghanistan and Iraq may be just a question of a year or two.
Right.
Well, Representative Frank Wolf, it's always good to have you. And listen, you're still with us for a few more months as a congressman, and we sure hope to continue to check in with you. You know that you'll always have a microphone here that you can use here, because so many of your constituents can hear you so clearly here on WMAL.